Hi, welcome back to our channel. Today, what I want to discuss is how to figure out whether a particular move to a usage based pricing is going to work for you or not. So, many times, larger companies today are going to consider moving from a user based pricing model to a usage based pricing model. And on paper, you may have options, right? You may have options of whether should we move to X metric or Y metric, and there's going to be debate inside a company. In this video, I want to be more tactical and show you how to analyze your data set that you may get from your CRM and perhaps someone from the product team that has some usage data, and using the usage data and CRM data to figure out whether a particular move is going to be beneficial or not. All right, so let's take a look. So we're going to take the example of a hypothetical contact center software. We are going to use CRM data that also has some usage data. What has to be known is that this company, hypothetical company, has 3 tiers: basic, pro and enterprise, and it is currently selling on a dollar per user basis, and it's now considering moving to a dollars per minutes per month. So how many times you picked up the phone and actually called an end customer, so that is a type of usage based pricing, or moving to a total number of customer interactions per month, that is also a type of usage based pricing based on how many customers you spoke with. Now let's see if one is better than the other, right? So in order to create this data set, I use ChatGPT, and I have two, just to show you what can happen and some examples from what I've seen in my own life. I've created 2 examples, but before I go do that, let me show you the data dictionary. So this data set is very similar to what you may get from your own CRM. You may get customer ID, company name, the plan, the tier that you sold, the number of users that this particular customer bought, the list price for that tier, the discount percentage, the net price that this was actually sold at, the monthly recurring revenue in USD, the annual recurring revenue for that account in USD. Now, for the usage metrics that we are considering, total minutes used per month, average minutes used per month, industry, country, and we're also going to have the other metric that we are considering, which is the total number of unique customers per month. All right. So I'll show you an example where you could potentially make this move in either metric, and an example where one of the metrics will work. So here is an example of a data set where the data set is presented here, and I've done some basic analysis that you would want to do. So this data set is laid out here. There are around 200 customers, and the first thing that I want to see is what is my average dollar per user by plan tier. So I can see basic, pro, enterprise. Enterprise sells at 160, pro sells at 80, basic is around 20, 22. Makes sense, and it is very similar to what happens in an enterprise. Then we look at average discount. We see that as expected, enterprise tiers gets discounted more, pro gets discounted a little bit less than that, and basic gets discounted lesser. So par for the course. I can see average seat counts. And what I next want to do is, this is an important chart. I want to plot my customers. I want to sort the customers based on the number of users that they have, and I want to see the total minutes used per month, right? And so one is the number of users is on this left axis, total minutes used per month is on the right axis. And what I am happy to see is that the usage correlates with the number of users, and there is a even distribution alongside that. So now if I picked up a dollar per minutes used metric, I could more or less mimic the amount of revenue that is coming in today from my existing customers from this new metric. So this is a very ideal data set for me to use and move over to this new metric without having a real issue. Now, in most cases, you will not have this situation. You will have something different. So let me show you what that something different may look like. So I have another data set with roughly the same statistics, but what happens is, here is what happens. You have your number of users in sort of an exponential function, but the total minutes used per month is very spotty, and you'll see a lot of customers pay you a lot of money and have a number of users on the system, but they don't actually make any calls from your system. This brings to point a question of what is the nature of the use of your product. Is this a taxi or a car that you keep? When you keep a car, you may not use the car every day, but you value it. So many systems such as CRM systems are like that. You may not use the system a lot, but you still value it. Other systems are more like taxis, where it's really used as a consumption based system and you're using a lot of transactions. So in this case, you'll see that not a lot of people are actually using this product. So if you move to the total minutes used per month metric, it would not be great because a lot of customers just don't use the product. Now, I have been personally in a situation like this at a company where they wanted to make such a change, and if they had made the change, it would not have been a great idea for them. And they spent so much time debating rather than looking at the data of how customers actually use the product. And you'll be surprised how few companies have hypothetical discussions without actually looking at usage data by customer. So I really encourage that you do this. This is a very basic analysis, and now with AI tools, you can easily load this data into an LLM and ask for statistics. You don't even have to run a pivot table. All right. But I set this up with a question. I can either move to dollars per minute per month or move to dollars per total customer interaction per month. And for this data set where this is the usage, I can also see that the total number of customer interactions are actually tracking with the total number of users, which is the total number of agents inside the company. Now, total number of unique customer interactions become a lot more interesting for me to use as a usage-based metric, because even if you're not making calls from my system, you are serving a lot of customers, and that could be good enough for me, and that is easy enough for you to calculate because it's aligned with your win as a prospect, and you will know how many customers you're serving to begin with. So that would become a very viable metric, and then this is the way you can say, okay, the total minutes consumed per month doesn't work, but this other metric worked. Or you can be in a situation where both metrics work, right? You could be in a situation where the total minutes used per month works and the other metric also works, like the total number of unique customers per month. In which case, what this means is, from the mathematical side, from your end of the equation, both of these metrics work well. And what you then need to figure out is what works better for the customer. Do they want to track how many calls they've made, or do they want to track how many customers they've served? I would venture to guess they would prefer to do the number of customers served, because in the first option, they have to be anxious about how much they have consumed. In the second option, they know, and especially enterprise customers or mid-market customers know roughly how many customers that they will serve. So they will tend to be less anxious about how much of your product they will use. And they might prefer to have this sort of metric anyway, because it is more proportional with their success and it is less proportional to how much they have consumed. Also, as a vendor providing such a service, it might be helpful for you to consider whether a particular metric that you are trying to offer is causing customer anxiety. If they end up choosing total minutes per use per month, which might be better for your people on the basic tier because they are cost conscious, they will try to use you very economically and they might not log in that much. So it will hurt your adoption goals. And the question is, do you really want that? Changing to a different metric has a bunch of different considerations. Some of the considerations, what works for customers, some of them are what works for you, and what works for you is also economic but also strategic. It may work for you economically, but does it work for you strategically from an adoption standpoint? So you have to take all of these decisions into account. But this video is to explain how you can do this basic analysis, to look under the covers of your system and to see whether a particular switch could work at all or not. So I hope this was helpful. Welcome comments, and I will provide this hypothetical data sheet in the description as well. You can make a copy and play around with it yourself. Thank you.